And welcome, ladies and gentlemen, back to the Valley of the Judged. I am your one and only gaming monk, better known as Mildra, and with me I have two of my good brothers here in the temple. We have the master of the Fistiverse, good brother Joel. And the man with the cursed knowledge, good brother Monarch.
I'm going to start getting myself a list of just other cursed knowledge facts to share at the beginning of these streams now.
Oh, but after our brief side thing with blood and bronze, we are back at it once again to handle the final parts with Vileborn, and doing a bit of catch up in the process.
A lot of catch up in my case.
Mm-hmm. Although I have spread the word about blood and bronze from last week because I think a lot of people are going to be surprised with how not nice that game can be.
Well, yeah, it's very deadly. Mm-hmm. And what surprised me more than that though was just how much it wasn't OSR. Like, it's OSR adjacent certainly, but it really is its own thing. And there's a lot to it. Like, there's a bunch of supplements and what have you. Like, you could really take this thing out for a test drive.
Oh yeah. Now, getting back to Vileborn, obviously the last time we covered it, we went into some of the core mechanics, which is as self-focused as everything else in the game is. as well as the act structure and the setting. Um, I'd say it's not going into exhaustive detail about each part of the world. And I'd say um the empire that this is taking place in is probably as big as maybe say um the main island when it comes to Great Britain. Like I don't think that, especially with the map that we got, I don't think this empire is that big. This isn't like say the Holy Roman Empire that was a massive toll booth nightmare. I think I've showed you both the map of the Holy Roman Empire and all the different um nations and nation states that made that up.
Pax Romania.
Um, or the
So this is the second time that you've got me thinking about Rome, and it really makes me want to rewatch I, Claudius for like the 15th time. So
it could be worse. It could make you watch Caligula.
I might watch that too.
If for nothing else, then see a legend like Peter O'Toole completely drunk off his ass on camera.
They've got Caligula and I, Claudius. They do the whole Caligula arc.
Mhm.
So
There, I had when I had at one point pitched the idea of doing the day the law died story from Judge Dredd as a film, um, and having
we really should do more films in the style of Dredd, and
having McDowell play Judge Cal because Cal was meant to be a parody of Caligula. Just do that as an in joke because he played Caligula in that movie, and when I say Peter O'Toole was drunk, I mean he was blitzed during all of his scenes. Oh.
Sometimes you get I don't know, man. That can turn in a legendary performance. So I don't want to condemn it broadly. You know?
Yeah, I won't condemn it. I'm not condemning it. I'm just noting it, and I will note that there's a long tradition of that kind of thing because you had the whole thing with Dennis Hopper being high as a kite on powder that he specifically asked for, and that made Marlon Brando mad, which was why Brando acted the way he did. Yeah, Brando called him unprofessional about that, which, if you know anything about Brando in the filming of Apocalypse Now and The Island of Dr. Moreau, you will find that absolutely hilarious.
I do, especially Apocalypse Now. Like, didn't he like throw coconuts at the screenwriter? Like, wasn't he just like getting drunk in the trees? And it's just like, come on, man.
Getting drunk in the trees. They didn't know if he'd actually use the script or go completely off script. He refused to read his own lines, and that's in addition to all the other stuff that was such a nightmare that there are whole documentaries about that movie's production.
It's a really good movie, though. Like in defense of Apocalypse Now, that's an amazing film.
It is. It's also a miracle that it even got that good because of how much of a nightmare making it was.
Yeah, it's one of those things where, like, you could just see the editor looking at all these disjointed, insane but brilliant scenes and being like, okay, I can make this work, and just stitching it into the Frankenstein's monster of a film that we eventually got. It's so glorious, but like, you can feel that when you're watching the movie. How much of it is like, I guess we into this scene now.
But I will admit there is a certain almost sadistic part of me that enjoys going through those stories of how things went completely wrong. That's why I find I wouldn't want to work with him, but I find somebody like Klaus Kinski fascinating, especially the times that he worked with Herzog.
Yeah, they were legendary, but every time you hear about, I don't even want to call it a friendship, they're like relationship. They acted like an old married couple that had both survived an assassination attempt from the other. Like, that's...
Well, with one of those projects, he ended up pissing off the Kinski ended up pissing off the locals so much that the locals actively proposed putting a hit on him. The only reason it didn't happen was because Herzog said, no, I need him for the rest of the film.
Ah, it's amazing.
But getting back on the rails, for the final part, we're going to be delving into the challenges part, which, yes, this is going to involve the reviled, the darkness that so much of this game is built around, as well as some of the other perils that you could potentially deal with as you're trying to survive this world that you've been thrust into. But
I'm ready.
I do like the quote that we have from Ygritte. The only way to face a reviled is to study it until you know it until you understand it, and understand it until you hate it.
That's fun.
So this is basically the GM chapter. It outright says, Darkness, this chapter is meant for you. The Vileborn need not read it, and if they prefer to not learn information the character should know, they should be wise to skip it. So there are 8 types of reviled, each of them getting their own section here. The Fallen, the Fae, the Ferals, the Hex, the Shadows, the Vampires, and the Wildkin, plus a section for challenges not involving the reviled. With each section on describing a reviled, you'll find tips on how to narrate the complications involving them, which I'm actually glad for, because complications can be one of those blank checks that I've criticized Fate over a lack of guidance on.
I don't know. They seem pretty structured. They remind me of Apocalypse World. I'm actually looking at them right now. I mean, I agree with you that they can be kind of a blank check, but it looks like the guidance is there.
For this game, the guidance is there. Fate, I've always been critical of the aspect system for a lack of guidance.
Man, I could go on about Fate, dude, but like invoking for a +2 is just like, what does that mean? Either he's on fire or he isn't. Like, what do you mean I can invoke his on fire aspect? What does that mean?
Yeah.
It's just terrible. Terrible design.
But there's also special rules for each of the reviled. 3 challenge sheets for them. We'll likely get into that later. A few narrative insights and adventuring hooks featuring them. Then the final section will have challenges tied to recurring situations, such as court balls, investigations, and duels. Right after that, we have how to narrate a challenge. And the tips that they give are throwing the Vileborn into the action. I like to say, offer a brief setup and ask, what do you do? The old classic. Act in turns. Let the Vileborn act in whatever order they prefer, but ensure everyone gets a chance to act during the round.
Yep.
Keep the pace. If the story slows down or loses momentum, introduce a new element or trigger the effect of a challenge and ask the Vileborn to react. I'm kind of reminded of Feng Shui's attitude of, if things are getting slow, add ninjas.
Yeah.
Which
that's perennial advice, you know?
I mean, it was said tongue-in-cheek, but there is some truth to that.
I mean, Apocalypse World, again, very explicitly informs you to keep your characters in the crosshairs.
Mm-hmm.
Like, don't let up. Like, you're supposed to continue to, like, keep the thumbscrews on them. And for the pacing of that game, it's great advice. So yeah, I consider it to be tongue-in-cheek, but there's enough truth in it that, like, you can get something very useful out of that advice.
Which, if as blasphemous as this may sound, there is one game that I think would make excellent study material for that kind of keeping them in the crosshairs. And that is early Call of Duty. Like, I'm talking pre Modern Warfare 2.
The stuff my little brother used to play in God, way back in the day.
So like 2, 3, Big Red 1. Maybe World at War. Because, like, I know a lot of people shit on the regenerating health thing, but the reason why that was done was because you're constantly on the back foot, and adding health packs would just mess with pacing.
Right, and what would have happened, because those games had a wonderful sense of forward momentum towards an objective, right?
Hmm.
What would have happened is every place you could have rested and regained health, there would have been a health kit, and it would have felt very artificial.
Hmm.
And it would have been the same thing but worse.
That
So they made the right call for that.
and it was meant to be an anti-power fantasy.
Yeah, and it really was, because you just really couldn't charge forward. You had to be very deliberate about getting ground in those games.
Granted, sometimes it could go a little far. I will never forgive the grenade span if you're playing veteran.
I
No,
love the grenade spamming personally, but that's because I love taking the piss out of games.
you run away from another grenade and walk into a different grenade. Oh, it's not alone in this. I don't like if I'm playing Doom or Doom 2. I don't like playing on Nightmare because it's just infinite enemies. Oh, and eventually that kind of thing gets sloggy. But they also say to highlight successes and complications. Never negate a success. Use complications, the darkness die, and the suggestions in the challenge to narrate how threats and adversaries act. I do
Yeah,
like this.
Yeah, I'm glad they wrote that down because so many GMs screw that up. They're
Mhm.
like, we got to keep the goal away from them, but this not every system lends itself to that kind of constantly kicking the magic artifact away from their grasp, right?
Mhm.
Some do, like admittedly some do, but like yeah, this is one of those ones where you want to have concrete goal, concrete goal, concrete goal, and link them together within the mounting drama of a scene.
Yep. They say use your imagination. The guidance in each challenge provides structure, but feel free to invent new ways to describe the outcomes, especially for standard complications. And use the special rules. If the challenge includes special rules, bring them into play. They're designed to make each challenge unique and memorable. And they note each challenge is presented on a sheet containing the name, type, and description of the challenge, its core identity, the progress track, a series of numbered boxes to the right of its name, indicating how many successes are needed to complete it. Mark these boxes, starting with the first, as the Vileborn earned successes, and use them to show how close they are to overcoming the challenge. Difficulties. This is the modifiers that adjust the difficulties of tests. For example, an enemy who is hard to deceive might apply a +1 modifier to subterfuge. When a Vileborn uses a specific approach, determine the base difficulty as usual, then add the relevant modifier. The final difficulty can even exceed 7. Which, yes, there is that possibility of the target number being higher than the die that you can roll. Which, in those situations, you better hope you have modifiers in your favor or a bigger dice.
Yeah, and I especially like that that element is present in this kind of game, um, because this is a game that's very directed towards the narrative, right, the unfolding story, and that is a rule that is very much the opposite of that. It's very much like no, 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 there are boundaries, limits, and there's like solidity to the world, right? And it isn't just about the drama of this particular scene. There is something, there's sort of integrity that flows through all of it, and it makes it a good counterpoint. It weights everything around reality of the shared imagined world instead of just the narrative you're spinning within it. It's a good thing for increasing the what would you call it, the sort of reality of the setting itself.
Yeah.
So I love little things like that.
And for a start, when I think the reason they bring up the fact that a final difficulty could exceed 7. Remember that for the majority of the dice you're going to have when you're starting out is going to be d6s. So there's going to be certain situations where, depending on the combination of modifiers and the dice that you have, some tasks will just flat out be impossible. Because this was something we did notice. There is no equivalent to a critical that automatically grants successes.
Yeah, I'm looking through here. I'm not seeing one. it seems like you can have things that are like you don't have to roll for them, and there are things that are just impossible. But I don't see you rolled all the max result on all the dice, you win forever. There's no natural 20 equivalent, not just like natural 20s as they actually exist, but natural 20s as they exist in the minds of people who write web comics about them, where they let you fly if you want to or whatever. The reality breaking super roll.
Yep. Which is one of the squares on that guy bingo. But
yeah, that guy bingo.
oh,
That's correct.
and then we have the darkness die. If the challenge involves a reviled, roll the darkness die, which is always a d12. This is the only time a d12 is used. Every time the Vileborn face a test against it. Describe the effects of the roll in addition to any other outcomes. Yeah, a Vileborn's dice. It caps out at d10. No matter what, that's the highest you can get. That's the highest you can get. The darkness die is the only time you're using a d12.
Again, I like that.
Mhm.
I like that there's sort of boundaries to, because it means whenever you have something that doesn't have that much, there's not a lot of wobble in how big or small that die can get, and there's a clear cap that you can hit pretty quickly. It communicates clearly that this isn't a game that you're supposed to optimize, right? It's more about, filling the non-mechanical parts of your character. What's your background like? What kind of dramatic stuff are you doing? What's interesting about your personality? Like it kind of pushes you towards that, and like the rest of the game does too. But the fact that there's just not a bunch of little niggling bonuses you can kind of build together like a Lego tower to do one super optimized thing. Yeah, it's very much the opposite of 3 and 3.5 in that regard. Not to say that's a bad game or anything, but just it's doing something radically different, and I like that. I've talked a lot more than I thought I was going to about this game.
But then we have the trigger. Each challenge lists a list of special effects known as triggers. These are linked to the boxes on the progress check that are highlighted in red. When you mark one of these boxes, the corresponding trigger effect is activated. If I were to make a parallel, I'd say consider the way phases work, the way boss phases work in a Souls-like. Like once the closer you get to finishing that, the more their kit is going to be changing. And whenever some people have tried to do Dark Souls in TTRPG form, that's one thing they end up forgetting. That with each phase change with the boss, you have the music change for one. Sometimes the boss's appearance change, and also they start breaking out new moves, or in some cases, breaking out some kind of hard check that if you don't prepare for it, you're gonna get wiped.
I like that though.
Mm-hmm.
It makes a really big, interesting activity out of a boss fight. I do stuff like that in my games too, where like I want those to be something that is engaging the players a little more, and so there's. I don't think I have phases on anything, but I do have like mechanics that alter throughout the different rounds, so that each round is giving them some new challenge. There's a new optimal path, like consistently shaking around. I really like that. I like it, and I like it as a player. I like it as a GM. I like the spectacle it makes of the whole thing. It almost makes a board game out of it. It's fantastic.
Yeah, and I know some people cringe at the idea of putting board game elements in TTRPGs, but
Fie on them, says I.
But I laugh at that. I laugh at that kind of purism argument. I have for most of my life.
Man, we're all downstream of what was it, Little Wars, right? So like you can't turn your nose up at
Oh, they can do that. It gives me an easier target when it comes to kicking them in the face. But
go for the throat, my friend.
Then then at the bottom we have special rules at the bottom of the challenge sheet. If they are necessary. But now when it comes to knowing the reviled, they do cover the matter of whether or not the Vileborn would know about them. Um, because there is the assumption, even especially in Act 1, that you've been trained by the Order of Dusk. But there are two ways to handle this. One of them is answering a direct question. If it's a basic fact or something a Vileborn would reasonably know based on training, just tell them. Or have them face a reason test. The difficulty would be normal, so a 5, but it may be higher depending on the question or rarity of the creature. It's up to you to decide whether a test aimed at identifying an enemy's weakness or gathering intel about a challenge contributes to progress. As a rule of thumb, any useful action that helps you overcome a challenge should count toward completing it. That includes tests to retrieve relevant information. There has always been and I think this is the benefit of having a defined setting and a defined tone, is that you can outright say, yes, these are things that no matter what your character build is, you should know. I think some, when approaching the matter of player knowledge versus character knowledge, overcompensate and have the character be the equivalent of the FNG starting out. For those who don't know, FNG is shorthand for the fucking new guy.
Yeah, well, one of the things about creating a world, especially a world in narrative, which this is that whenever you're doing it as a story, you really need someone who doesn't know what's going on for the more knowledgeable characters to fill them in on, and that's all of them.
Yeah, you can't have everybody be the audience surrogate.
Yeah, but it can be awkward whenever you're doing a setting that's kind of non-traditional. That's one of the reasons why stuff like Yoon Suin, the Purple Land, which is kind of a setting book for OSR-ish adventures, the reason that it's written as it is, it's it's a really big weird setting, right, with a lot of its own traditions, and it's key exotic to basically anyone who encounters it, and that's part of the fun. And they very wisely understood that the only person that was going to be conversant with it was going to be the GM, and so they just were like, okay, assume that your characters are outsiders to this, and they just encounter these things, and that will teach them enough about the setting that if later on they want to make characters for it, they'll have enough knowledge that they can actually do that in a meaningful way. And the worst example of that is Legend of the Five Rings, where it assumes that everybody has read every part of the setting and every part of their clan book's setting. Which is an enormous volume of reading that is constantly challenged in play by every other lore master player and the GM, making for a very frustrating learning curve.
I think that's why they often suggest people start out as Emerald Magistrates.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not alone in that. It's a double-edged sword when it comes to setting. Of how much is too much, and there's no right answer for that.
Oh yeah, I don't think that there's a right answer for how much is too much. I think there's a right answer for how the hell am I gonna teach a player about this. And some games nailed it. Vampire the Masquerade, you're a neonate. You don't know anything. You know what the modern world is like, and then you learn about the vampire world, right? And it's consequential. If you don't know stuff, it sucks really quickly. If you start learning quickly, you can get advantages quickly. The learning experience is a really important aspect of that game. Dungeons and Dragons, right? You're a guy. You can do what a guy can do, and it's kind of like Lord of the Rings. You get a nice cultural touchstone. You have D6 hit points, and your weapon does D6 damage. Therefore, you're gonna sneak around and watch stuff. So the first whole level of Dungeons and Dragons is about not dying, and so you learn about the setting by observing it and sneaking through it. There's a lot of games that do it in a smart way.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not about how much setting or how weird the setting. It's about how have we figured out how to introduce players to this setting.
Yeah.
And Vileborn has the advantage that we all kind of know what this is, right? It's a sort of like dark coming of age story. There you go. You know, it's a hero's journey, but you know you have a dark side. It's battle against the shadow. You almost can't get more fundamental.
Yeah.
You know?
But
So even if you don't know the specifics, you know the big stuff.
now the first Vileborn not the first Vileborn, the first Reviled we get into is the Fallen, which are described as tormented spirits, souls of those who could not find peace. They remain bound to places, objects, or individuals due to unresolved matters from their life or the tragic consequences of their death. And they do give a few prompts for complications, and the effects of those complications, as well as the special rules that apply to them, such as ethereal. They can shift between physical and incorporeal form. Sensitive to saltpeter. If they're exposed to saltpeter, they have to manifest physically. If you resolve whatever their unresolved matter is, they instantly vanish, and they are anchored to a specific place or object. If the object is destroyed, they vanish immediately. You know, although I do like each of the prompt and effect with the complications.
Yeah, I really like the complications. They're really interesting.
Yep.
And I also like there's a distinction between something, the complications and the wounds. There's just enough there that it's clearly designed to create a sense of mounting stakes with enough consequential rules that you have to think about it strategically. It's not super deep, right? This isn't a game where you're putting a lot of stuff together, but functionally this seems pretty solid. Maybe not world-shaking, but well crafted, and definitely well crafted for what they're trying to do, which, as you pointed out, they are laser focused on.
But then we have a few examples of Fallen with the Poltergeist, which has its trigger at the third check mark. So you can kind of see what they meant by the progress bar with the whole, in the case of the Poltergeist 1 through 5, where each success you'd mark off one of them, and then you'd activate the trigger when you've marked off the third. And you have the difficulties. So if you're trying to do these particular tests, this is the modifier you have to put in. And if you're rolling, every time you're rolling a test, you have to roll the darkness die, which is basically determining something that the Poltergeist is doing.
Yeah, the action economy is really interesting in this game.
And the special rule for the Poltergeist is, at the start of the challenge, the Poltergeist is incorporeal. It cannot physically interact with the Vileborn, nor can they touch it. It can be made tangible using saltpeter, by cleverly applying certain dark heritages, or by persuading it to manifest physically. Or you have a stronger form with the Revenant, which has a progress bar of 7. Obviously, once all the boxes are filled, the challenge is basically resolved. And it has 3 different potential effects on its darkness die, as well as two triggers. It also the special rule of it often manifests by re-inhabiting its own corpse.
Nice. I really like this thing. They're really giving you a lot to work with this guy.
Yeah, and I think with each one we're gonna have 3 tiers of challenge, which you could kind of put each one into one of the acts. Tier 1 is the Poltergeist, Tier 2 is the Revenant, and Tier 3 is the Guardian Martyr.
Yeah, it makes it really easy to theme an emerging story too.
Hmm.
You know, because you could just have them face them in that particular sequence at dramatically appropriate moments, right?
Yep.
Act one, the boss is just the poltergeist, and then when we get to Act three, they've got to recover some evil artifact, and guess what's guarding it?
Hmm.
That's really good.
But then we have a couple insights about whether they're people or echoes of people, as well as the Verloom dilemma. It says, a group of skilled alchemists among the lanterns discovered a method to trap the final glimmer of life from a corpse's eyes, sealing it in small trinkets or glass shards. These items emit a pure light known as Verloom, capable of repelling shadows. However, when large quantities of Verloom are gathered in one place, paranormal phenomena begin to emerge, revealing that these objects effectively contain Fallen. And we also have potential adventure hooks that you could use for introducing a Fallen type enemy. Infestation, a poltergeist is haunting a noble matter. Actually, I like that each of the adventure hooks is focused on one specific type of Fallen here. Like Infestation is a poltergeist, Vengeance is a revenant. Possession could be any of them. Protection involves a guardian martyr. Curse could involve any of them. So there's a mix of what could potentially be done. And of course, these are just suggestions. Although, if I were to use a because it's me, if I were to use a Fallen in a campaign, I would probably have it that there was somebody who disliked the rest of the village so much that he ended up becoming a Fallen just out of pure hating.
All the haters said I was going to become a Fallen one day, and they were correct. Good call with the haters.
Not in the case of like the Doom guy level of hating, but more like Stink Meaner from the Boondocks.
Oh, Stink Meaner is amazing.
The guy who was the hater of all haters, and even death didn't stop him, to the point where even the devil had enough of his shit.
Man, what a character.
Oh.
I want to quote that show so much, but I just can't. Cause they were absolutely raw in the Boondocks.
But, see, then we have the Fae, the embodiment of deception and temptation. While they promise easy fulfillment of one's most hidden desires, they corrupt the mind and soul alike, reducing their victims to mere pawns in their games. So, and yeah, we have the same kind of complication prompts. I do like the anxiety one. Makes you believe it predicted your every move. But they are vulnerable to cold iron. And takes the difficulty of tests to wound them and brings it down by 1. Also, the Binding Pact. Breaking a pact with a Fae allows it to inflict a wound or one condition on you each day, no matter where you are. See, Deceptive Form. They can temporarily take on the appearance of someone they have seen before. And Distant Senses. They can see and hear through the senses of any person it has made a pact with. Blocking this for a scene is a difficult 6 willpower test. And the types of Fae we have are the Bound, which are humans that have willingly entered a pact with a Fae. A Snatcher, the whole snatching newborns from cribs and replacing them with changelings. And Whispers, powerful fairies and masters of exploiting greed to enslave their victims. But then we have a couple insights and adventure hooks, and that's kind of the pattern we're going to see throughout these. And we kind of hinted at this when we covered character creation, but each of the types of Reviled parallels with one of the types of Vileborn. Then we have the Ferals, which this is basically where you get your proper werefolk.
I've been waiting for these guys.
Mm-hmm. So you have the complication prompts as well, and a few special rules. As they are werefolk, they are weak to silver. Especially since I like how they do it here. Silver is the only metal capable of inflicting wounds that a feral cannot regenerate. In addition, the difficulty of tests to wound a feral using a silver or silver steel weapons is reduced by 1. They rapidly heal any wounds inflicted by mundane weapons. At the end of each turn, erase all wounds caused by these weapons. Silver, silver steel, gifts, and dark heritages are never regenerated. And in their bestial form, every test aimed to reason with them results in an automatic complication. Which would make sense. You trying to reason with them when they're in full beast mode is, well, it's going to work about as well as what happened with the Bear Whisperer when he thought that he had communicated and bonded with the bears. And then they ate him.
Yeah, that seems about right. Like, you've never bonded with the bears, guy. You've just gotten lucky in a consistent, way. Mm-hmm. People look at that, right? They look at that and they can't help but see the pattern, right? They're like, this must mean something deeper. There's some underlying thing. No, bro, it's just luck. You got lucky a lot in a row. You figured a few things out, and you're still in a vast, dangerous ocean that you can't control. Jesus Christ. It's just hubris, man. It's just hubris.
Have either of you ever read through the opera, The Free Shooter?
The Free Shooter? No.
AKA Der Verschultz. I know I'm butchering my German. That particular opera served as the basis for the Rip Van Winkle character in Helsing, but aside from the infamy of the Wolf's Glen, one of the bigger parts is the rifle that came from a deal with the devil. 5 of the 6 bullets in that rifle will fire where will hit the target that the shooter wants. The 6th one is the devil's bullet, and will hit where the devil wants it to.
Oh goodness.
Which is a nice touch, but the first type of feral we have is the Undone, people who are trapped halfway between human and bestial form. Although the way they describe it, I think of like a werewolf that started to transform but didn't finish. It says their muscles and tendons are torn, their bones misaligned, their teeth half human, half animal. Mad with pain and crazed by hunger, they hurl themselves blindly at anyone in reach. And their trigger at 6, they end up taking themselves out by eating their own carotid artery, or rather tearing it out. which I'd say is a good representation of the horror of the undone type. Um, Predators are, on the other hand, are ferals in a complete form. Um, the classic transforming in the moonlight and all of that. Um, and a Vileborn who can transform into a bestial form, unlike a feral, um, retains their memory during transformation. Ferals don't. You know, it's the classic case of somebody going werewolf, but not remembering a thing that happened when they did.
Classic.
Mm-mm. And I know they say when not transformed, a feral is indistinguishable from a human. I've always taken the approach of they look human, but even in their human form, there's something not right. Like when you look at the human forms of monsters and say Guyver or Devilman or even Kamen Rider in some cases, it's like, yeah, they look human, but if on some level there's something wrong, or it's like it's like something trying to imitate humans but doesn't understand what humans are. If that makes sense.
Yeah. Of course it does. Like that's
think
the
of
whole,
think of the bug in the first Men in Black when he was wearing Edgar's skin.
Oh, that was great.
But then we have the amalgam, where some ferals have transformed so many times they've lost all trace of humanity. An amalgam is a mash of flesh, fangs, bone, and claws. Its anatomy is barely discernible, animated by nothing but ferocity. So like a lycanthropic chimera. That's the vibe I get with this. Especially since later on in the challenge it splits into distinct masses. But they do a very good job of highlighting the horror of the ferals. Oh.
Yeah, I especially like the loss of identity with this one. That's really cool.
Mm-hmm.
Like the price for being able to be like physically mercurial is losing your ability to embrace solidity. It's kind of gorgeous.
Yeah, when it comes to the insights, they do mention, you know, becoming a feral is through the bite. Though not everyone who gets bit becomes one. They also I know I made comparisons to werewolves, but I feel like that's underselling what this is trying to do with the feral, especially with the segment on the beast here. When ferals transform, they become pure embodiments of the hunting instinct, impossible to trace back to any specific animal. Their features are a chaotic fusion. Claws reminiscent of tigers or hawks, snouts like wolves or bears. Sometimes they even show strange deformities resembling wings. They are all predators and none of them. Like you know who'd probably have a field day with the concept of ferals? Cronenberg.
Oh yeah, Cronenberg would absolutely thrive with this. If you look at The Fly, that's a really good example of someone gaining enormous power but utterly losing everything about their humanity in the process.
Mm-hmm.
Like a true and like monstrous transformation. Absolutely gorgeous film.
Oh yeah.
But a lot of his films are kind of about that in one way or the next. Even History of Violence is kind of about that.
Yeah, I know it'd be tempting to also bring up The Thing, but I don't think that's applicable in this kind of thing.
The horror of the thing is being devoured by something that was never human. This is about losing your humanity as you transform. It's a subtle distinction, but it is a clear one.
Yep. But then we have the Hexed. These were once human individuals who chose to embrace the darkness, devoted to cultivating eternal resentment between others. Their very existence is an omen of misfortune. And Aaron asks, "What about this? What about the substance?" I don't know about that. I'd have to double check because it has been a while. But
when was the last time I saw the substance?
let's see, the Hexed warp fate around them, causing curses that intertwine with their victims' lives. These rituals sow misfortune and corruption, turning even the smallest event into inevitable tragedy, illness, conflict, ruined harvests, failed endeavors, and personal disasters that mark the passing of a Hexed. And they are vulnerable to sacred symbols, not just those of Luminarianism, as long as they are created by the truly faithful. When exposed to them, the difficulty of all tests against the Hex is reduced by 1. Their presence brings ill fate. Anything that can go wrong will do so in the worst possible way. Matching the difficulty of a test against a Hex results not in a success with a complication, but just a complication. And marked fate, you can store up to 3 complications caused by tests against a Hex and bring them into play later, whenever you choose.
Oh, jeez.
So even if you win, they can still find a way to fuck with you after the fact.
That's great, though. Right? Like, real death curse energy on that one.
Also, on a certain level, the horrible things that is in Household, but the cast ability that Eclipse Solars have.
Oh, the one where they can seal a deal, and then if you break it, it comes back to haunt you. But like, it's not like immediate. It's a curse that lingers to destroy you at the time of the GM's choosing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's particularly mean. It's so dreaded. I don't think I've ever had anyone break an oath with a Eclipse, and generally, people don't enter into them. It's like, it's such a terrifying ability that it's like, nah, we're not doing that.
Yep. But the types of hexes we have are the lowest tier is the Succubus. Then we have the Crone, and finally the Witch. And there is this theme of gradually having less and less humanity and more blatant curses. Though it does state, Hexed are closer to human than most other reviled, and often exploit this resemblance to confuse and manipulate their victims. Excuse me.
Bless you.
The curses cast by them are difficult to break, as they don't strike directly, but rather twist circumstances around their victims. Those marked by a Hex often find themselves trapped in a cycle of repeated failure, where every attempt to improve their situation makes things worse. I do like that there's a very insidious theme about the curses.
Yeah, I really like the curses here. Like, I think this is sort of where a game like this shines, you know? Because a curse is great in that it relies on drama to be most effective, like emotional impact-wise for the players, and it's very fitting for this setting. So if you have the sort of creativity that you want to apply in a setting like this, combined with that need for drama, you basically have the perfect engine for something like a curse to have maximum impact in a game. Um,
Yeah.
and it's clear the authors understood this, so that's fun. It's fun that they are recognizing their strengths here.
Hmm. There's also the fact that because of Revil's actions being based on the darkness die, the focus is kept on the players. It's one of those cases where they don't have a turn per se. Um, the action economy is on the player's side, and when it comes to the darkness die, it's more about the players reacting to what's going on. Uh, which again that sense of focus. But then we have the shadows. Um, the art we have with the shadows, I don't know why, but I keep thinking of American McGee looking at this. Maybe it's because I really like the Alice games.
I recently got a friend, Alice Madness Returns, and on Steam because it was on sale, and I'm like, you've got to play this. So I'm looking forward to seeing them stream it. It's gonna be really good.
Um, but shadows feed on negative emotions, and at the same time, they nurture them to ensure a steady harvest. These highly evolved parasites sow suffering only to reap it later. Uh, Now, whether shadows are sentient entities or parasitic organisms that are highly sophisticated is unknown. They emerge whenever fear and anguish concentrate, which, given the state of the Empire, that's going to be pretty frequent.
Yeah.
They're nestled in the darkest corners of densely populated places, such as chaotic cities or isolated communities, as they feed on the dread and paranoia they provoke. In that regard, they're almost like a psychic virus.
Like that, though.
But they are weak to Verloom. The temperature tends to drop around them, and drop more and more as they get stronger. They are literally two-dimensional. And while they don't have a fixed form, they are still tangible. They can physically affect the world and be affected. But the types we have are the Incubus at Tier 1, the Puppeteer at Tier 2, and the Famine at Tier 3. And I do like the approach that we have with the Famine, where instead of like haunting one area or one person, it haunts whole inhabited areas, lowering the temperature and feeding on the despair of their victims. Those caught within their reach are tormented by cold, paranoia, and starvation, dying slowly as the famine grows ever stronger. And as far as how to distinguish, they also have a thing of how to distinguish them from just normal shadows. A shadow hiding within a regular shadow is visually indistinguishable until exposed to a light source, such as a torch. Normal shadows shift or disappear with light, but shadows, being semi-physical entities, remain fixed in place, even when illumination should force them to move or vanish.
Ooh, that's creepy.
But, of course, then we have the good old vampires.
Yeah.
Which they are doing what you'd expect vampires to do. I do like that they reinforce the whole centuries old kind of thing. Like with the wound complication, strikes you with a precision refined over centuries of killing. There's almost an implication that no matter what vampire you're dealing with, they are old. But they are undead, so they have no metabolism. They are vulnerable to sunlight, of course. Too bad the sun is veiled by the darkness. Perhaps the Vileborn will find a way to change that. On the other hand, if they don't drink blood for a full day, they weaken, -1 to the difficulty of all their tests. After a week, they suffer excruciating pain. After a month, they fall into a catatonic state and remain unconscious until they somehow feed again.
Good old torpor.
Mm-hmm. So, we do have three, and I take back the whole every vampire is old, because we have the young bloods, recently turned vampires that still cling to some identity they had in life. But there is a theme of they only go into conflict whenever they're cornered. Noble bloods have been vampires for decades and have a deeper understanding of their powers and instincts. And ancient bloods are the highest expressions. They have seen empires rise and fall. To them, a human life is the blink of an eye. Their flesh is marble, their heart is stone, their unlife is blood. And these are meant to be the old ones. The ones that probably don't like their souls getting diableried.
Yeah. And yet, that's their function.
Mm-hmm. But then of course, we do have the method that they make new vampires, draining a human nearly to death and making them drink its own blood. But sometimes it creates a new young blood, other times it fails, and there's just a corpse. But vampiric blood is used as part of as a refinement process to create reverie, which, as I mentioned, can be used as a suppressant for dark urges, but it is addictive. But unless it's vampiric blood, unless refined into reverie, is indigestible to all, even to blood singers and other vampires. Its toxicity remains unexplained, though some speculate it to be an evolutionary trait preventing other vampires from feeding on it. So that is something, if I was running this, I might play with and introduce like a blood singer who's a Kresnik from like Trinity Blood. If you haven't seen that particular series, the Kresnik was described as a vampire that feeds on vampires, and there's only 2 of them. Most vampires don't know about it because, well, if they did, that would fucking terrify them. Which is kind of the point.
It's more scary if they don't know about it too, I think. Because then they don't have... Like, when it comes to vampires, if it can be known and time has passed, you narratively always have to ask the question, like, well, why didn't they know? If it was relevant to them and time has passed and they could know about it, they're basically people, right? Inevitably, they should know about this stuff and become experts in it, given that they have basically infinite time, right? That's not always the case. Like, if you're just focusing on a small time frame, it's possible to get the jump on them. But it's really great when something is so rare and out of left field that there is no library of knowledge about it, right? There's 2 of these damn things. They can't be widely studied because the only prey they have is rapidly destroyed and already incredibly rare. It's wonderful. And
I know that the whole thing of like a half breed or the like hunting vampires is nothing new. But the thing about it that I always like is a lot of times in stories, vampires are undone by their own arrogance, believing themselves to be this apex predator that can never be challenged, and learning the hard way, yes you can, and now you've got a stake through the heart.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, in the modern Knights, the stake through the heart doesn't kill you; it just paralyzes you. But being paralyzed is one step closer to being permadead. Especially if you piss off the Camarilla.
Yeah, don't screw with the Camarilla.
Yes, there are those who don't care about the masquerade, but they tend to be priority targets. And the only ones that survive are the ones that are powerful enough or sneaky enough to not draw attention. And even the things like the Shabbat, even if they don't follow the masquerade in a roundabout sense, they do follow something close because they know that drawing too much attention is still going to get them wiped out.
Yeah.
There is
Yeah.
there is a certain irony to that, but
Yeah, for being the let's break the masquerade guys, they do a lot of enforcing the masquerade.
hmm. I've always interpreted it as they're they're they don't have a problem with the idea of the masquerade. They have a problem with who runs it.
I don't know, man. Like, I guess it depends on who's in charge of writing them, because different authors had very different ideas about those guys. I think that, for me, probably the most comprehensive one was that they can't shift the paradigm all at once, right? They're just hopelessly outnumbered and outpowered, and there's a reason for the masquerade, right? So they don't quite have the ability to return to what they had before, but they can do it in small doses, right?
Yeah,
So
but
it's a strategic matter for them rather than a matter of tradition.
but then we have the Wildkin, which are described as corrupted manifestations of nature. They loathe humans and all traces of civilization. They are hostile guardians that haunt dense woods, forsaken crossroads, and fungal-infested groves teeming with spores. Uh, there is one game that we covered earlier this week as part of the Hangover Shit Show that I think would provide a very good visual touchstone for the Wildkin, and that was a horror game in the works called The Florist.
Intriguing.
Oh, especially since the equivalent to zombies. They're probably not zombies, but they're just covered in this colorful array of flowers, but it's still sickly. Almost, I compared it to the Garden of Earthly Delights when we did the stream.
I love that.
Uh, but like just as a frame of reference, I will link the Steam page in the side chat for you just so you can kind of see what I mean. But even with its overgrown garden, it is very much channeling classic Resident Evil. You know, fixed cameras and all of that. But I think you can see what I mean when I say they might be a good visual touchstone for the Wildkin.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm not being. I'm trying to suss out how to. Like, I'm thinking about like how would I run this game, and it's got like the same problem that like Dungeon World had, where you don't roll dice basically as the GM, so it's like there's never really a point where like
not exactly.
Not exactly, but it's reactive, and it's designed to be reactive, right? And so you can't just have the bad guy stalk up and then attack. They don't have like a place in combat. All of the players always get to go first by the design of the game, and then there can be consequences based on their roles. But that means that the villain isn't the one driving the combat, and that feels really wrong. You know, it really should be the big monster is attacking and pressing their advantage. Like that's mechanically that's how that should feel. And in this, it's like no, the Vileborn strike first.
Except from what let me scroll up a bit just so I am not talking out of my ass. But
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out how I would do this. Like especially with the fucking werewolves. It's like werewolf leaping out of the shadows and attacking is like the way you'd start that conflict. But
So
they don't.
you have to roll. So if a like as it said before, if a challenge involves a reviled, roll the darkness die each time the Vileborn face a test against it.
Right. Facing a test means they are actively taking an action against it, though.
Oh.
Right. So you can't have it jump out and attack them. They find it, and then they attack it. And then you're rolling the darkness die to see what consequences happen there. But if they're like, we need to run away from this.
Okay, I think I might be able to help clear a little bit of this up. Don't
Good.
think of your combats as like combat starts. It's the scene, like they go out to investigate. Say they'll do whatever their investigation actions are, and as part of that, the werewolves jump out to attack.
Right, but there's never a point where the werewolves jump out to attack. But basically, you have to wait for them to fail a roll or roll a 1.
I think
and then you can tack on the consequence.
You don't
of them
necessarily
attacking.
have to fail. Like maybe
You don't have to fail,
discover.
but you have to trigger something that allows them to enter the scene. It's like, why wouldn't there just be you can roll this to attack, right? Why wouldn't? Why not?
Well, remember this. As a Vileborn, you are specifically trained to directly combat the darkness using your gifts. And I think this is a reinforcement of that factor. Like, you're spending all that time in the Order learning to fight reviled.
And if this were a video game, and you were the one walking into the boss arena, then sure. But, like, this means that there's never a point where there's a rampaging monster that attacks you proactively.
I don't think they're especially with the hooks that we saw. It's clear that that's not what they're trying to do. When you're entering into that place, the reviled is already there, causing some sort of problem, but you need to find it. You're there to investigate and deal with it.
Right, and it's so awkward, and it's so unnecessary to have it be designed such as that there's no offensive capability for these things. It's purely you do things, and then it triggers off of your actions. It feels so wrong.
Cypher, is it wrong because it's something you're not used to?
Oh, I'm very used to it, because Dungeon World does this, and it feels wrong there too. It's based on this broader, the GM doesn't roll dice philosophy, and it's like, man,
I'm perfectly fine with this.
I mean, I could easily see starting it out with some kind of monster attack, that just being the initial things. Like, all right,
well, they have
said
monster
werewolves
attacks.
jump out of bushes to attack everybody.
Though this is the reason.
To this situation.
This is the reason why
it starts.
Here's the problem I have. Okay, let me actually get, because you're right. You could do that, and you'll notice those little red numbers on their health tracks there. That's when you do that. That's them attacking. Right? They
know
have
that
mechanics
those
for
red
them
numbers
attacking.
aren't them attacking. Those are triggers.
They are. Those are triggers that allow them to proactively set the pace of the combat. This thing happens, roll a response to it. Is what that is. That's perfect. Every one of the first ones should be red. It should be, this thing ambushes you, this thing attacks somehow. You know, and they could have done that.
That's
with
what the
all of them, and they did them with none of them.
That's what the darkness die is doing. Like, the darkness die is doing that every round.
If you do something, if you narrate yourself walking up to it and looking at it and not attacking it, the darkness die does nothing, right? Because it's defensive. It's reactive to you proactively doing something, and it completely puts the pacing on the wrong foot. It's not a mechanical thing I'm responding to. It is the feeling that is going to happen at the table, which is, so I have to attack the dragon, it can't attack me. It's very awkward. And it's needless, again, because they even have all the tools they need to solve it within the context of the game they designed, and they just refuse to. It's really frustrating.
I will respectfully disagree.
I know you disagree, but, like, I don't see how. I don't see how you could say there's no way for these monsters to proactively set the pace of the combat offensively, and that's fine. What? That's insane. What function is that serving? How is that making the game better? It isn't. It totally isn't.
Back on the rails.
This is the rails. We're discussing the game.
Back on the rails. When it comes getting back to the Wildkin, in spite of that whole thing of nature, they are still weak to fire, which that might make things a bit amusing if they have to deal with a sudden lightning strike that hits a dry brush. They can manipulate nearby plants, and I do like the natural regeneration here. Unless completely reduced to ashes, a defeated Wildkin will slowly regenerate and eventually regain its strength. So make sure to burn the body completely. Get out the napalm. But the 3 types we have are the trolls, which is funny after covering tunnels and trolls earlier this year. The rotlings, born from the fusion of dead bodies and tangled roots.
Ew.
Actually, I think another touchstone might be the... Well, they're not zombies, but the monsters in The Last of Us. Cordyceps.
Yeah, with the mushrooms growing out of their faces and all that. God, those things were gross.
Mm-hmm. And then we have the Ancient Grudge. Things that are born from the destruction of natural places. They infect noble creatures like great stags, twisting them horribly into guardians of immense strength and resilience. I'd say the Wildkin representative we have in the art, that is very much meant to be an Ancient Grudge. Especially with how it has just the legs dangling, the old legs dangling there.
Yeah. I really do like this art, by the way. I want to point out, I'm grunting in disgust at it a lot, but it's because it's effective.
Mm-hmm. But it is believed by some that Wildkins are nature's embodiment of vengeance, or a reflection of the darkness seeping into the forest. Every Wildkin is a threat to the place it guards. Their woods are living labyrinths where intruders are assailed by poisonous flora, strangling roots, and spores that taint the air. As tempting as it would be to say that they're nature's embodiment of vengeance, I'd say it's more that they are a twisted version of nature. Because we've had that theme of everything the darkness touches, it twists and makes wrong. And yeah, there's always the fair cruelty of nature, and this is just taking it to a further extreme. But much like some of the other Reviled, they are always bound to a specific location. Anyone who enters these territories is quickly detected, and each step deeper into the woods lowers their chances of returning alive. You know, how many fairy tales do we have about the forest that you shouldn't go into unless you want to fucking die? Oh. But... And we have the potential adventure hooks, like a crossroads where a troll has settled at a crossroads, forcing pilgrims to face impossible trials for its own amusement. Or infection. The spores of a Wildkin have infected a local community, causing fever and hallucinations, driving its people to the brink of madness. Or, I love the ritual one we have for the adventure hook. An aberrant cult summoned a Wildkin to use as a weapon, but the creature is turned on its masters. He says, oh, you decided to do the whole summoning thing. How'd that work out for you? But then we have other challenges, potentially. Typical situations that the Vileborn may find themselves facing. If you wish, you can treat them as challenges, though you don't have to. If you prefer, you can handle these through standard tests. One of them is the Court Ball. Like a duel, every detail and gesture carries weight. Like a battlefield, each decision can sway alliances and shift political tides. I do find it funny that the wound entry for complications is you suffer a mishap that causes harm.
I mean, they've rolled social harm into the wound system here, as I recall. So
yeah.
But I like to think that you can slip and break a leg. So
I don't know. You could do that, or I'm pretty sure anybody who's done dance lessons, myself included, has had those moments of accidentally stepping on your partner.
yeah, but you're taller than all of your partners, so like it's a much more big threat when you say stepping on your partner. Like when I say stepping on my partner, I mean treading on their toes. When you say it, it's more like an insect underfoot. Oh, Gulliver's Travels energy with you stepping on a partner, brother.
The thing that I remember with Gulliver's Travels, he was in the land of the little and the land of the big at different points.
Well, we both have one half of the story when we show up together, I'm willing to bet, so.
Oh. I know that in one case somebody decided to get cute on some very slippery floor and ended up pulling a Van Damme. And I was like, I'm glad it wasn't me this time that did it. And they were not flexible, and I laughed to hide the pain because I've been there. Except in my case, it's justified because it was freshly frozen, or rather refrozen ice on the sidewalk. Where it's the kind of ice where it's melted a bit and then refroze.
I had a friend who trod upon that ice in the back of a parking lot in a mall and slipped and did a complete perfect backflip and landed back on his feet. He looked around and nobody had seen him do it. And it was like the only moment he had any physical grace in his entire life. He was just so mad about that. So.
Mm-hmm. But. And of course, we have the different parts of the challenge, the difficulty if need be, as well as different triggers. Then we have the duel, the most personal kind of confrontation. And I do like how they've integrated each of the types of complications. And they do give a bit of side advice. End the challenge at the second success if the opponent is inexperienced, at the fourth if they're seasoned, and at the sixth if they're exceptional.
Like that.
So
Also,
you do have a way to give the players a jobber match.
Yeah, also notice that the one is red here.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, again, it's right there. It's like, you can do it. Why not? Why not have a backdoor mechanic for being more proactive?
Yeah.
It feels like an oversight to me because they've clearly solved that problem, right? The reactive-based game and the way they've designed it is fine. It's just that initial thing. That's it. It's that initial, oh, what if they're being a little too passive thing. Like, and you want to club you need to be able to have the bad guys hunt the characters sometimes. I'm not saying every time. I'm saying that it should not be a foregone assumption that you're going to be proactive with all of them, right? Like, sure, you're supposed to be. Players doing what they're supposed to do happens about 12% of the time.
Yeah, but
So.
something to keep in mind is that the reviled and these challenges are under the same umbrella of being challenges, not encounters.
Well, that's why. Right, and here's the thing: in both cases, if you look at Duel, it's exactly what I'm talking about. The one is red. So immediately, the assumption is that that guy is coming at you with his sword, right? So you have to do something. And
So
you do, right there.
there's-
One, lands a hit during a close exchange, causing a wound. You know? Right away. Right away, you've
I
got to
can
test
see,
something.
I can see either approach because, you know, at the same time, we don't have any triggers for investigation. Oh,
Right, but an investigation is not going to go into a dark alley and club you over the head, right? It sits there passively until you interact with it. But a monster should not act like that. Just like a duelist who is engaging in a duel should not act like that.
Yeah.
And it doesn't. The duelist attacks you, you know, like you would in a duel.
but
The ghost, I'll give you. The ghost starts the fight incorporeal, right? Okay, so you have to proactively bring them into the physical realm so you can hurt them. That's fine. But the werewolf, come on, man. The werewolf should not be a thing that you have to hunt. It should be able to hunt you sometimes. And that would have been a great way to mechanically distinguish them.
yeah, but
Just saying, it was right there.
after that, they go into a list of reference works. So this is basically the Appendix N.
It's a good appendix in too. I was looking over it earlier.
Yeah, so we have Nevernight and Empire the Vampire by Jay Kristoff, Assassin's Apprentice by Robin Hobb, Mistborn by Brandon Sanderson, The Name of the Wind by Patrick Rothfuss, The Neverending Story by Michael End. Kind of ironic last name there. Yes, there's an E at the end, but it still counts. Blood Song by Anthony Ryan. The Bartimeus sequence by Jonathan Stroud. And The Witcher. I'd say when it comes to the loop, The Witcher is definitely there, though I'd say the video game more than the books. Because I'm not going to go so far as
the Trial of Grasses seems like it's something that you could reasonably face in a setting like this.
Oh yeah. In fact, I'd say not only that, but also the different Witcher schools wouldn't be too far removed, since the Order's monastery isn't far removed from the fortresses that the Witcher schools operate in. But you know, with Witchers, you do have that whole thing of going after the monster directly, that after studying it. And not only which is also why Witchers are described as monster slayers, but in practice I feel like calling them monster slayers is kind of underselling it.
Right, they don't just walk up and slay the monster. They're like Sherlock Holmes with a sawed-off shotgun.
I'd liken them to the way witch hunters actually work in Warhammer Fantasy. It's not just accusing somebody of a witch. They are just as much of investigators, even if a little crazy at times. But when it comes to other media, we have Border by Ali Abbasi, The Animal Kingdom by Thomas Cayley, Vampire in the Garden by Wit Studio, Vampire Hunter D by Hideyuki Kikuchi,
Another absolute banger of a suggestion.
Blood the Last Vampire by Hiroyuki Kitakubo. Though I will go one step further and say that one spin-off of Blood that would make for a very interesting Vileborn campaign is Blood Sea. Because of when the curtain is revealed about what's actually going on in that, and I'm not spoiling it. Just go, if anyone's curious, go watch Blood Sea. I could say Blood Plus as well, but not for the same reasons. But then we have Banishers by Don't Nod, and Claymore by Nobuhiko Yagi. Um, I feel like Claymore got a raw deal when it came because it came in that era where you only got 26 episodes and that was it.
Yeah, Claymore, I feel like it should have been more of a slow burn.
In the manga, it was. The manga went on for dozens more volumes afterwards.
Yeah, see, well, Berserk suffered from that a little bit too, right? Because like, I don't even know if you should try to turn Berserk into an anime. Like, when you read Berserk, it's kind of like the works of Junji Ito, where it's about that page turn. You know, you turn the page, and then there's just this beautiful, dark, inked.
I think it can work, but it has the same problem that a lot of seinen works are going to have when you're trying to turn them into anime. The four pillars of heaven when it comes to seinen manga are all very, very detailed, and that kind of detail is expensive. And for reference, when I'm talking about the four pillars of heaven, which obviously is a nod to 90s old Japan, the four manga I'm talking about are Vagabond, which doesn't have an anime. I know that the guys behind Arcane have talked about wanting to do it, but I'm like, it's never they are never doing it. You're never gonna have a French animation studio get access to a Japanese national hero. It's just not happening. Vinland Saga, which managed to get several seasons, and Wit Studio did a really good job with it. I felt validated because I had been singing the praises of Vinland Saga for like 10 years. Berserk, obviously, and Kingdom. Don't get me wrong, I like Kingdom, but it also commits one cardinal sin when it comes to animation for me. I don't like when CG is integrated into 2D animation through like characters, because it's just an immersion break when it happens.
Well, this is one of the reasons the new Berserk anime was such a miss for me. Like, when you compare it to the OVA, there's just absolutely no comparison, right?
Are you talking the OVA, or are you talking the... There was never an OVA. There was the 90s anime. There was the movie trilogy, and then there was the 2016 anime.
Well, the movie trilogy and the 2016 anime, I thought were like basically the same thing, just decompressed.
No.
Really? Oh wait, no, you're right. Because the 2016 was a continuation from the Golden Age, wasn't it?
Yes.
Because the movie trilogy was their redo of the Golden Age, but it was the same kind of 3D blend, right? There was a lot of 3D modeling and whatnot. Well, that just looked
for a bit of context with that, the movie trilogy was done by Studio 4C, who...
I thought the Berserk one was an OVA.
No, there was never an OVA.
Yeah, you're right. Look at that. Huh.
See, I know these things.
I've been calling it an OVA my entire life. I can't believe it's not an OVA.
The time frame wouldn't have made sense, because the OVA bubble had, by the time we get the movie trilogy, that had long passed. Like the
97 and 98. Just a year? That's all the more it lasted? Dear Lord.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, well, this is what I'm talking about, the 97 series.
Yeah,
but
and
like,
as much as I like that run, it did a lot of shortcutting.
It did, and it did a lot of it committed a lot of the we don't have a lot of money for this animation sins. Like, we're gonna hold on this shot and zoom in. We're gonna animate one part of this shot, you know,
or shift to a painted version of a panel.
Right.
There was a lot of that in 90s anime. Like, there were a lot of those kind of shortcuts, or reusing cells, or the like.
Yeah. But here's the thing. I don't care. I would prefer that enormously to the shitty, immersion-breaking, clunky 3D models of the movies of the 2016 series.
I'm fine with using 3D models when it comes to massive scale things. Well,
I've yet to see a thing where I want to see it. I would rather see a painting. When it comes to a massive scale thing, if it was a still image of a painting,
Well,
I like that better.
to give an example, with Quad S Gridman, they only used CG for the kaiju fights. They only use CG for the kaiju fights with those characters to differentiate it from everything else.
Yeah, and that's probably that at least is a clearly artistic choice, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, we have to use CG for practical purposes, but we can use it in a restrained and specific way. I'm fine with that.
And Studio Trigger, which did Quad S Gridman and the Gridman universe, is very, very good at finding creative ways to do shortcuts without making it obvious. Like, you go back and look at Kill la Kill, there was a lot of shortcutting because they had no budget. They just got out of Gynax jail.
Gynax jail.
And with the 2016 Berserk, the problems were a lot deeper than just bad animation. First off, you had two animation studios that had completely different styles that were forced to work together. One a 2D, one a 3D approach. So you have the logistical problem. You also had a director who had never done a combat-heavy story before. Up until that point, he had only done slice of life anime. He was completely out of his depth.
Wow, it shows.
Oh.
He had no sense of how to do it.
It's much like how with I remember when I was talking about the Crunchyroll originals and I brought up X-Arm, and that was the one case where it wasn't necessarily Crunchyroll's fault. It was the fault of the animators involved who thought that they could just overly rely on CG and have most of the work done. And all that they had done up to that point were commercials and a few music videos. And now they're trying to do a Shiro-esque cyberpunk work. They were punching way above their weight class.
Yeah, come on.
They were. It was like UTEP going up against Michigan or something. And for those who don't follow college sports, UTEP even 50 years ago was always a punching bag. It was always one of those schools that is put out there to boost the confidence of bigger schools.
The ringer school, dear lord.
But we have a thing at the back about digital materials, and one last beautiful splash art. Like with a lot of the 2-page spreads, if I could, I would put these up as posters.
Yeah, the art in this is absolutely breathtaking.
Mm-hmm.
It really does give you a reason to want to purchase it.
And that more or less covers Vileborn.
Yeah.
And I would say I can see where you're coming from when it came to the issue of challenges. Though it's one of those things where I can go either way on it. I see what it's.
I don't even, because the thing is, it's not as though they can't fix the issue I've brought up. They do. They just don't do it consistently enough that I feel like a new GM especially is going to stub their toe on it. Because my first instinct as a GM is, how can I make the monster attack them? And it's couched, right? They don't come out and say, hey, I know you've ran D&D before, therefore we're going to make it clear to you that you don't do this the same way, and here's how you resolve that. They just kind of assume that you'll pick it up. It's a trap, and I don't like the trap aspect of it, especially when you combine it with the fact that there's no reason to write it like that. It doesn't serve there's no benefit to it. Yeah. The structure's fine, right? The system is fine. It just needs to be talked about to the GM, and it's really frustrating that it doesn't seem to be.
So, if I'm giving it a score, I'm putting it as a recommended, because that is. I'm not because of that issue. That's the only thing that keeps it from being in strongly recommended. Because everything else, it's
beautiful.
It is very, very upfront about what it is and what it is not.
Yeah, absolutely. It's upfront about it, and it's stylish, and it has something to say for itself. It's really a gorgeous little game. Just this
Yeah.
one landmine sitting there.
And I do think that despite the way it's set up, I do feel like this is a game that almost lends itself the most to duet play. It doesn't outright say that, but that is a major vibe I end up getting, of one player, one GM.
I could see it. Or like one GM, two players maybe. Like it could be a really small group, because it doesn't rely on the logistics of a party, like dealing with hard numbers really. So it immediately scales to the amount of players you have in the group. Really, again, really good, clean, intelligent design that gives a consistent experience. It's not like, and I know all this stuff works. There's nothing in here that's like so new that I'm baffled by it. You know, I'm describing this in terms of other games that are like it. But everything that's in here is I think you said it really well, where they take everything they need and they leave everything else out. Again, this is like one mark away from perfection for me too. Like this would be an A+ game for what it's trying to accomplish. Save the landmine sitting in the rules waiting to ambush the unsuspecting new GM.
Well, fortunately, I think this is a game that house ruling and homebrewing would be pretty easy, because it isn't that restrictive. In addition to that, I think that if you're coming at this from how easy you'll be able to adapt to this is really going to be based on your background. And there are some games that are like that, where depending on background, you'll have an easier time. If you're coming at this from a perspective of somebody who only knows D&D and very dungeon crawl heavy games, you are going to have an adjustment. And I don't think that's what this game is designed for. I think this is designed for the very narrative, the very character-focused type of gamer and type of storyteller.
Yeah, this is a great fit for someone who has a story to tell that is in this general genre. Like, if you're young and energetic and you have a really clear idea of what you want to do, and you've got two friends who are on board with it, one friend maybe, like you're saying, this game's fantastic.
Yeah.
This would be a recommend for me, like a really strong recommend in that circumstance, right? It's a lightweight game that doesn't really require any prep, so to speak, so you can really just think about it like, what kind of, challenges do I want? What kind of story do I want to tell? What kind of cool things do I want in it? And just kind of freestyle that in the ebb and flow of an evening. This, honestly, you could almost do a LARP with this if it didn't have the stepped dice. So, like...
You could do this solo as well.
Yeah, this would be a good solo game. I feel like there's enough push and pull from the GM and the player kind of negotiating that I wouldn't recommend it solo. But with just a small group of friends, oh yeah, absolutely.
And a main reason I say that is because, well, I didn't design Legend Edition to be solo, and yet, Daydream had other ideas.
Yeah. Oh yeah, people have been doing my game solo too. Like, you never know until you try, right? And some games really do lend themselves well to it.
Yeah, I've taken the approach of, it's not something I built for, but if somebody wants to homebrew it in a way to make it work, then more power to them. I always encourage homebrew, even when it gets me in trouble.
Especially then.
But
that's such a pretty game.
With that said,
Mm-hmm.
Monarch, what's your overall take when it comes to Vileborn?
I'll say I don't think the landmine he's talking about is really that big of a deal here.
It really is. The fact that a question that simple is answered with just absolute silence and frustration by this game. Again, it's such an optimized game. There's so much to praise about it. But that one thing requires you to suss it out from this design intent that's never clearly stated, that will absolutely destroy the pacing of a scene and leave you completely frustrated. There's no clarification. You just kind of have to figure out what you're supposed to do when the bad guy can't attack with an opening salvo. It's awkward, and it's a completely needless thing. It's a huge deal. It's such a huge deal that it actually greatly diminishes my estimation of the game overall.
But continue.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so I still don't think it's that big of a deal here. I think you're exaggerating how bad.
You're free to be wrong, but continue.
But my thoughts really didn't change from the previous week we talked about this. Like, I don't see myself ever playing this because I have absolutely no interest in playing a coming-of-age story in my TTRPG. But if that's what you want, this game's going to deliver on that. Mm-hmm. It is very well crafted for what it's trying to do. So yeah, if that's your thing, give it a play.
Mm-hmm. So, now that's going to wrap it up for this particular season. And we do have the between-season rule that we will delve into next week when we cover Aegis and Heaven or Hell. Obviously, with the latter, I've done interviews with the other Joel on that.
The lesser Joel.
Oh,
he's probably great.
And that will be an interesting beast. Aegis is one of the early examples of doing console-style RPG in tabletop form. It is a very light game. And Heaven or Hell is, if the name wasn't a dead enough giveaway, it is very much channeling 2D fighters in general and Guilty Gear in particular.
That sounds pretty amazing.
And both of them are very light affairs. And when we come back to a full season in about 2 weeks, we'll be delving into Augusta Universalis. Now, this is a game that I have interviewed its creator, Luca De Marini, about. It is built on his Destino Obscuro system, or just Dark Destiny. We don't have the core book for that. We just have the book for Augusta Universalis. The best way I can describe it is Pax Romana in space, and
sounds amazing.
Even that is underselling it a bit. I did a review of it several years ago, and I was told afterwards that I did a better job reviewing it than some of the reviewers in its native Italian.
Jeez.
Which, make of that what you will. However, that is what we'll have on the horizon over the next couple weeks. But until then, on behalf of the good brothers present and not present, my name is Mildra. I am your gaming monk. Stay fucking frosty, everybody.